There is power in covenant prayer that is founded upon the taking of a vow. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 2 of the Torah, double Torah portion, that is, Matot, Masei. Let's continue in Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter number 30. It says in verse 3 and following, if a woman vows a vow to Yahweh and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent toward her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement which she has bound herself stands. But if her father forbids her on the day he hears, then none of her vows or her agreements by which she has bound herself stand. And Yahweh pardons her because her father has forbidden her. But if she at all belongs to a husband, while bound by her vows or a rash utterance from her lips by which she has bound herself, and her husband hears it, and he has kept silent towards her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she has bound herself do stand. So there is parental and marital authority considered in the taking of a vow. Let's apply this to our walk as the bride of Mashiach and the ability to take on a vow before him and partner with him, and that is for covenant power with him through prayer to come bring things to pass. There's an interesting book. I read this a number of years ago, and I've gone back to it for reference on several occasions. It's written by one of my favorite authors, Francis Frangipan, The Power of Covenant Prayer. I suppose this is still available. If so, you might want to get you a copy. And he talks about the authority of power of prayer. But in particular here, we're dealing with the Torah restrictions about women, whether a daughter in her father's house or a wife in her husband's home, taking on a vow that would be rash. For example, one might hear a wife who steps off the scales and is disappointed. I'm never going to eat again. Well, obviously that's not a vow per se, but we are judged by every idle word that comes out of our mouth. So words have power, and words need to be dealt with. And it's not that women are the only ones that make rash vows. Men do this all the time and probably are worse. But nevertheless, there is the authority of the home to correct a vow that may not be best advised. However, as the bride of Messiah, we come before him in prayer and we make promises and vows to him frequently. I vow before you I will never do this act again, or I will give what you require of me to whatever the source might be. We take on these vows, and if we don't keep them, we are still going to be held accountable for them. Let's consider a couple of occasions where the power of taking a vow brought about great success in the house of Israel. In the book of 2 Kings, during the days of great upheaval and evil in the land, Athaliah was the mother of Azayahu, or Ahaz, or Azariah. This is in 2 Kings chapter 11 and verse 1. And she rose up after her son died and destroyed all the heirs. And she began to institute a reign of violence and terror in the land. The one she did not kill was Joash. And this young child was hidden and protected from his grandmother. Yehoiada, the high priest, at a certain point puts Joash upon the throne and crowns him as king. Grandma comes in and she's hollering treason, treason. She's taken out and she's properly dealt with, and she met her demise. Let's just put it that way. So it says in 2 Kings 11 verse 17, and Yehoiada made a covenant between Yahweh and the sovereign and the people, to be the people of Yahweh, also between the sovereign and the people. The result of that was a cleansing of the land. If you continue to read, it says that they went into the house of Baal and they broke it down. They broke down its altars, its images. They took hold of things that were unclean and got them out of the land. And in verse 20 says, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city had rest. The power of the vow for the people to be the people of Yahweh Elohim, and then to continue in the authority of that vow and the power of that vow, that is to keep one's word to Yah in prayer and covenant. The power of that covenant prayer then produced righteous results. And it says, and the city had rest. How many cities are in upheaval the world over? There are fires burning and riots in France. There are cities that are being destroyed by the Russo-Ukrainian war. Other cities in Europe are in great distress. We've seen here in America riots, we've seen plunderings, we've seen burnings, we have the homeless in huge encampments all over the place in some major cities. Crime is rampant, police forces are down, and people are afraid. What would happen if the leaders of some of these cities the world over would make a covenant of prayer that they're going to get rid of that which is unclean, and they're going to turn their hearts to the Most High? How long would it take before we could see these same cities experience a time of rest? In 2 Chronicles chapter 29, during the reign of Hezekiah, there was great trespass in generations prior to this man taking the throne, and the land was being judged. In verse 6 it says, our fathers have trespassed and done evil in the eyes of Yahweh our Elohim, and forsaken him, turned their faces away from the dwelling place of Yahweh, and given their backs. They shut the doors to Yah's house, and they neglected the face of Yah. Verse 10 says, now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, so that the heat of his wrath turns away from us. And so again, they went through the cleansing processes. They did the things that were necessary. They began to observe the times and the seasons of Yah. And they reinstituted the priesthood. They put the sacrifices back together. And then it says in verse 36, and Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced that Elohim had prepared the people, because the matter came about so suddenly. There is an ability for a sudden change to take place when we back up our prayer life with covenant action. So if we make a vow to Yah, if we're crying out to him and we're describing the dilemma of whatever our need and situation is, but we're unwilling to be a part of the answer to that, then where does the answer have an ability to function and to be facilitated? So whatever our cry, whatever our need that we express to him, let's understand that we are to be hands-on in the answer of our own prayers. Adding to that, when we make a vow before him and enter into a covenant agreement with him through Yeshua, recognizing that we're going to have to keep our word and that we're going to be held accountable for our word. Nevertheless, if we make a covenant agreement with him, Yah will move mightily in our midst to bring about the answer to our covenant request. You're special to him. Yah knows who we are. Yah is looking for an opportunity to partner with us and to get great things accomplished. So let's pray. Let's keep our vows, and let's expect Yah to move in our midst. And let's expect to see you again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.